Chicago peoples. Let's talk about Chicago. And the show, The Chi, right? We talking about Chicago, the crib. When you put The Chi on it, right? Like people have that expectation that this is 100% authentic. This is how Chicago is. Do you feel like it's a good representation for us? Do you feel like it's a good step in the right direction for Chicago?
You know, being from The Chi, I originally was hating. Right. Like just
first instinct.
My prejudice was hating because I was like, oh, what's this? But the reason I wasn't hating was because of Lena and Common and Derek Dudley being executive producers. I'm like, okay, let me support my homie's project.
Raising a black boy around here sometimes, you have no idea.
But I was super surprised and I really enjoyed it. I think it deserves the applaud of making it seem real. And that's what, if anybody from Chicago say what is being from Chicago mean, it means being real.
For me, it's definitely about authenticity. And I think, you know, there's so many like different complexities when you're dealing with Chicago because, you know, you're talking about this city that's sort of based on, you know, the intent around like separation and segregation. And like, you know, when you have a show like Shameless that is one sort of voice from Chicago and then a show like The Chi, it's like, again, you get to see us, you know, being us, doing us, and, you know, living very sort of genuinely in our space.
I love the fact that we're being talked about. I feel like Chicago made me tougher as an individual, you know what I mean? Like, it taught me so much. Survival was the biggest thing, you know, like playing basketball, competing, going west side, south side, north side, downtown, like you meet all different kind of people. So it's just like my experience was a little different, but then at the same time, I felt the hearts of a lot of individuals coming from the south side and the west side.
The segregation of Chicago put it in play that like you don't go to the west side or you don't go to the south side, and like almost putting, you know, kids in the same situation at odds against one another simply from, you know, a geographical standpoint.
That's the story of Chicago. You know, I'm from the south side, so I got a White Sox hat on. If I was from the north side, I would be a Cubs fan.
I'm just happy that like Jordan came into Chicago because it brought a lot of like joyous days for us. Like we were happy, you know what I'm saying, as communities, as a culture, south side, west side, it didn't even matter. We were just happy. We all celebrated Jordan and the Bulls. After that whole like period where the 6 championships we won, it was just like, all right, it was back to reality. So we had like a bad spot where it was like all negative and only thing that was really shouted out was the violence of our city, you know what I mean? But during this time, the gang members, they were taking care of all the athletes, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a lot of craziness. It was just like all positive vibes in the city, you know? So like, I don't know if our sports teams got to get it together, specifically the Bulls, to make it better.
I mean,
Definitely that will help.
Yeah, I think that would.
I mean, we know coming up in the 90s, like that made it fun and something to do, you know, to watch, follow the team. So, you know, definitely like if you care about Chicago, like and the upper management of the Bulls and ownership, like you can save lives by making the team better. Like, listen.
How do you think that our city is portrayed in the media? Like, you know, again, like...
You know, it's negative.
Yeah.
Like they make it seem like you should be scared to come to Chicago. That's literally like, I have people from other cities that's like, yo, is it safe? Should I come there for Lollapalooza? And I'm like, yo, fam, where you gonna be at for Lollapalooza, you ain't gonna see, nothing to worry about.
Right.
Like every major urban city has bad neighborhoods, but the media makes it seem like it's literally like Chirac, like a war zone, and it's not. Like, and that's what I like about the TV show, The Chi. It shows the comfort of the community. Like, man, I don't care how quote unquote bad the neighborhood is on the south side or the west side, it's genuine people.
Right.
People care about each other. It's just, of course, it's always rotten apples in every bunch. That's like, you know, that's disrespectful or, you know, or setting a bad example for others. But for a whole, like, I think education is important. And now the resources are here for people to even educate themselves. So, you know, I just want to continue to encourage people to just keep upbuilding each other. You know, we got a black female mayor now.
Right.
So, you know, I think that just gives hope for now young black girls.
Without understanding her politics or the campaign that she sort of won on, but it's like there's simple things that sort of need to take place in order to affect change. And I think that, for one, it is seeing a strong Black woman in office, right? Like, it is, it's almost like, it's like the Obama effect. It's like, for the period in time where Obama was in office, especially when he first got in office, right? As a Black person, you kind of felt like, man, things is gonna be all right. Things is okay.
Gave everyone
right now.
hope.
It's so much hope. Like, I was out there in Grant Park when he got elected, and I'm hugging people that I would never even speak to, and it instilled you with such hope because, one, you felt change was coming, right? Like something was, you felt like this person was rallying around you. You felt like it was a more personal connection with your politicians. And again, I'm not one for politics, but I think that there's an empowerment that can happen when you see people that look like you in these positions of power, right? And it's something that, I don't know where the change will sort of start, but I know that they can start there just at that base level of having my mayor look like, me, or she's from my family, and feeling a relatability to that person in power as opposed to someone else that looks like no one I've ever met before.
I mean, it's great to see a woman in office, obviously, and then a woman of color. Like you said, it's cool to see successful people that look like you because that's empowering, encouraging for the younger generation because that's what matters most. So it's cool because me growing up, I only knew Harold Washington. Mm-hmm. That's all I knew.
And Harold had a short time,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
So it's cool to see that, we've come this far in history.
It's just encouraging to see people make it up out the city and people do great things that encourage the younger community to say, wow, okay, I don't just have to be a gang member. I don't just have to be a drug dealer. I could do art. Right. I could be in the WNBA,
So how did Chicago influence you on what you do now and what you do now?
For me, every city that I go to and play, I'm proud to say yo, I'm from Chicago if somebody asks. I lived in Europe for majority of my life, So people will always ask where you from? I'm Chicago. And I'm oh, it's such a beautiful city. So to hear others talk about our city, is super cool. And for me, my legacy is to continue to drive positive things from our city. You know what I mean? Because I know what we played from. I know what I came from. So the only thing that's on my mind is to make the city better.
I think with me, like I mentioned, basketball culture was so instrumental in raising me. I love sneaker culture. I always said, man, how can I have a shoe? How can I figure this out? And so I just was able to figure it out through design. I was able to work when hip hop community was bubbling. I tried to rap. I couldn't rap that good. But then I figured man, it's other things that I could do to add value in hip hop, And so that's it's just applying the principles towards what you do. And that's the main thing. It's man, all the kids out here, I know people gonna say oh, you could be the next Barack Obama or you could be the next Michael Jordan. 1 in a million, probably not,
right, right.
But you could be the next.
You can aspire to be.
You can aspire to be the principles that Barack and Mike have displayed. You can use to be the best you.
Yeah, 100%.
And then your name now is gonna be synonymous with theirs in the future.
From the standpoint of visual arts, for me, putting that Chicago accent on something, a movement that was already sort of happening around the world and bringing my spin to it was something that, helped me sort of stand out and become one of the forebearers of, and now you look at Chicago street style, street art and street artists, and the one thing I'll say is we have an overabundance of artists that are doing character-based work, and it's I'm happy to say that I could help sort of, pioneer and bring that to the table. But, Chicago, I mean, it's in everything. It's how I drink my water. It's it's in everything. And I have to commend you, Don. You have the greatest Chicago accent of all
I won't
time.
let it
Like,
go.
You are all time, bro.
I won't
like,
let
you
it
are
go.
all time. It's funny because I was having a conversation not that long ago. We were talking about Chicago accents because somebody was like, what's a Chicago accent? I was like, yo, listen to Don C. I was like, that is the most genuine,
Everybody else turn
official.
it off.
Right.
Everybody else. And people
like,
ask
yes,
me like, are you from the southern region of America? And I'm like, yeah, south side of
Right.
Chicago.
But it's a hard thing to turn off because it's like, even when you try to turn it off in certain settings, there's words and things you say that's just like, it's Chicago. It's just in you, yeah.
We got our
So,
own language. That's so
yeah.
crazy.
Thanks. Well, this was dope.
We gotta do it again.